Hello everyone, welcome. You guys know what day it is. It's Wednesday. It's stream day. It's my favorite day of the week. We get to come together, make a map. I'm excited about that. We'll go ahead and do some quick announcements so that people can kind of filter in. I might direct you over to what's new. And we've got some recent updates. I mean, we post our weekly map prompts and stream calendar. So if you haven't joined our Discord, we have an events channel there, and that's where people kind of post their creations for the map prompts that you see here. And we posted our June stream schedule as well. So definitely go check that out. Hey everyone, welcome. So glad people are here. We also did some new bug fixes and improvements. Just go ahead and check up the updates tab or what's new and take a look at the new things that we've done. As you know, the team is constantly working to improve the tool. So definitely give them a high five for that. Thank you, team. Also, I just want to mention that if you haven't if you don't know about where you can request streams, we have a Canny page for that. Definitely, if you don't see the requests, if you don't see the videos or not seeing the streams that you want to see, please leave a Canny request because we listen to the Canny requests. So definitely go check that out. I've went ahead and included our Discord link and our Canny link in the chat, so go click those and go look. I think people have kind of filtered in now, so hello, welcome everyone. But today we're making an Elven Citadel to the watercolor battle map style. That style needs a little bit more love, so we're going to work with that today. Now, the other day ago, some people were asking me, how is it that I come up with my layouts for my structures, for my buildings? And, you know, not everyone's an architect. So, of course, it's kind of hard to come up with a floor plan. One thing that you can do outside of going to image searches and looking for inspiration is to actually create it in the tool with the watercolor city style. And really, it's quite simple. I've made a little design using watercolor cities, and I used a platform and all the stamps that are Elven related, and then I use them to create this kind of little mini example. And the great thing about these is they only take about 10-15 minutes to make. You don't have to add a lot of detail because it's just a guide that you're using. And what's also really cool is that you can keep it on the map itself and put it in the corner and put your name on top of it or whatever. So kind of cool to piece together a little guide to kind of help you to figure out the layout that you're making. That's very helpful for me. I'm going to keep it up in the corner here so that I can kind of keep a look at it, and that way I always have it there. But I don't do this technique every time, but sometimes it works really, really well. So first, we'll just mention that you should turn on your grid because the grid is going to decide your scale, right? What's 5 by 5 square feet. And 30 is quite a lot. It's quite huge. So I'll probably go with 15 to see how big that is first. I think 15 columns, that looks good. And then I'll leave the BG layer as is, and then I'll create the basic shape. So if we look at the guide here, what you normally create first is the terrain, but if the structure is going to take up the majority of the space, you can build the structure first and build the terrain around it. It's all personal preference. You could start with terrain first, but if it's all going to be covered up with something, then you don't have to worry about making the terrain first. Go ahead and make the structure and then build the terrain around it. So with elves, it's usually in a forest setting, but there are all types of elves, drow and whatnot from other types of elven creatures. But we're going to go with like a woodland elf theme for this one. And the first thing that I'll do is I'll create what's called the foundations. That's this giant circle that you see right here with the staircase. That right there is called the foundation. When you have a tall building like a citadel or a tower, it needs a strong foundation for the building to sit upon. And the foundation can be so much bigger than the structure that's going to sit on it because it can act as a courtyard, it can act as an entryway, it can act as a lot of different things. So being creative about the architecture is a huge exaggerated foundation that can act as like a courtyard area, as you can see here in the image that I've made. So we'll create the foundation first, and we can just use the shape tool. We'll pick a stroke or a stamp to choose as that. You can use whatever you want. You can go to elves if you want to. I don't think there's actually an elven pack in here, but you could use this stone platform right here. Works fine. So we'll start with that if we want to change it. I definitely would recommend snap to grid. And we'll make the shape. And I'm not going to make it a perfect circle like I did in the example. I'm actually going to make it a little bit more oval, just to make it a little bit more interesting of a shape. Okay, and we'll zoom in, take a look at it. And I want to be facing the other way, so I'm going to use these flip options here. And I'll change the stroke size to make it a little bit bigger. There we go. This is going to be our foundation. Now, you could use fill for this, but I'm not going to use fill because I want to actually paint it so that I can add a little bit more texturing, adding texture upon texture on texture. Really good texturing. The secret to it is using multiple textures, from regular textures to alpha textures. Alpha textures are those that support transparency. Layering is really the secret to really good texture blending, all right? So think about that. So we'll add that. And I want to make sure that I place it first, because once I place it, then I want to fill this with the add mode of the mask tool. So I think I'll put it right about here. And in fact, I'll make it just a little bit bigger. I think that looks good. Make it a little bit bigger. And I think I might actually cheat a little bit and use this nodes tool right here. And then I can use this nodes tool to push it to make it a little bit more egg shaped. So it looks a little bit more interesting than just a regular circle, because I already feel like there's a lot of circles on the example. Like the Citadel has circular roofs. There's a gazebo at the top of the staircase there. That's kind of circular. All the trees are kind of circular. There's a lot of circles. So we'll break that up by making the foundation not such a perfect circle, kind of an egg shape. So then I'll fill this up with the add mode. And the quick way to do this, hey, first time chatter, welcome. Glad that you're here. What I'll do first is just use the circle brush, not the edgy brush, because it won't stay perfectly to the edge. And I'll just make a circle, and just like you're trying to not make it bleed outside of that circle, I did a little bit there. You'll have to fix that, of course. Just fill this up like this, and then you'll go over to the bucket right here and just go add. And then it will fill the whole thing for you. And I would also recommend you turn off your mask effects. That's going to be like the shadows, inner shadows, ripples, things like that. Turn that off, because that can kind of cause a little bit of lag. So turn that off, and you may not want to use it at all. So with the map like this, I don't generally use it. So let's go ahead and clean up the mistake that I made right here. I kind of bled over a little bit. We'll do that. And then I'll check the edges to make sure there's not any spots that I missed. I see a little spot there. I think overall it looks good. Make sure that I didn't miss anything on the inside as well. And I just do that, just get that out of the way now so I don't have to fix it later. Always good to kind of go over your work and just make sure that you did something correctly. Once I've done that, then I can go ahead and fill it with a texture that I want. And I want to make sure that I kind of pick a texture that's going to go well with the stroke stamp that I had. I'm making an Elven Citadel, by the way. Okay, let's look for a stone ground. Let's try this rough stone light, and I'll fill it, foreground fill. And just so you know why I generally use the add mode for the interiors instead of the exteriors, is so that I can paint them separately. It really stinks when you're painting and you accidentally paint inside of a house when you're painting outside. You can avoid that by simply making the interior and the exterior on different layers. And conveniently, there are two layers, FG, BG. Those two layers you can use conversely to do that. So it seems like there is not a lot of hard contrast in this, so it doesn't match with it. So what I'll do is I'll switch over to the harder contrast one, and I'll fill it. And then what I might want to also do is maybe desaturate it so it kind of matches better with here, and maybe bring the contrast down, because the trick is I want them to match a little bit. So bringing the contrast down, the brightness up, saturation, and it kind of causes it to kind of blend in better. So there's that. The next step is to create access. How is it that I get from the ground up to this platform or this foundation that I've created? You want to use stairs. So what we'll do is we'll go with the line tool, hit up your pen, and then you'll type in stair in the search field. And then you can pick the stairs that you want, and we'll end up editing that a little bit too. So what I like to do is go here and then click, hold, and then the stair will bend as you go. So I'll just press enter, and there's the staircase. And I'll just go ahead and turn the snap to grid off, as I don't need it right now. And then I'll put it down a layer so it's below, and then I'll desaturate it so that it will kind of fit. And let's turn the shadow off too, because I'm going to end up painting shadows. So we'll turn that shadow off, and I'll desaturate this. And it should be a little, I'm going to bring the brightness down on it. I want to represent that the staircase is kind of going down. And so to do that, I can just simply bring the brightness down on a little bit. Let's go ahead and take a look at my guide here and see how I put this forward. You don't have to follow it perfectly, by the way. The beautiful thing about your guide is that it's exactly that. It's just a guide. You don't have to follow it perfectly. That's very helpful. So we'll go ahead and rotate this a little bit more. There we go. So we have a staircase that kind of goes up. And if it seems kind of wonky, the great thing you can do about it is you can control the nodes. So if you're having a hard time with it, you can move the node like this so that it kind of matches more with the circle. So the staircases can be kind of complex. So the beauty is using the line tool and then using the pen and then click hold, and so that it will create that curve, because trying to draw it by hand looks really bizarre. Okay, let's go ahead and create a space, the landing at the top of the stairs that connects, because right now the staircase just looks like it drops off to the side. So what I'll do is I'll just take the same stamp that I used here with the fill option and everything, and then I'll make sure it's set to merge shape, and then I just go like this. Oops. I don't think it merged. Did I lock it? I don't think so. Let's try it again. Sometimes this happens. Oh, there we go. It merged. Great. Cool. Let's go ahead and set it up. Okay, there we go. And then, of course, you'll have to fill that in with the Add Mode of the Mask tool. There we go. Great. So now you have the staircase that goes up to the structure, and then you have the foundation. So we're pretty much done with the foundation right now. So once you've done all that, then you can go ahead and create group and call it foundation. First step. The blue in the background looks kind of weird, so we'll go ahead and click background, and then we'll pick a texture to be the background. And this is just going to be the base texture. Normally when I use a base texture and then I paint on top of those textures, I'll use dirt, right? Because what's below grass? Dirt, right? And then you can paint the grass in certain areas and it will still show some dirt, just like you see in real life when you're walking in a forest. It's not just grass everywhere. There's dirt, pine cones, duff, all that stuff. So I'll take a texture that I like and I'll just fill, and then I have this nice dirt background texture, which are great. So now that I have that, I can probably lock this so I don't accidentally select it. When you have a big group like this and then you're working on top of it, if you don't leave it locked, you might accidentally select it. And it's really annoying to try to have to like avoid selecting it. And when you're really zoomed in, you can't see that it's selected because the bounding box is bigger than what you can see. So always be sure to lock your big foundations or big buildings or whatever it might be so you don't accidentally select them, because that happens all the time to me. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create the structures that's going to be on top of the foundation. So we want to create the buildings. So what we'll do is we'll go over to shapes here, and we're going to turn off merge shapes. I don't really need to merge shapes quite yet. Well, actually, I think it's okay. We will lock the foundation, so it shouldn't merge. We'll go ahead and just make a circle first. And there's a cool trick if you want to make a perfect circle. There's some shortcut keys that will make it go from the center. So that's pretty cool. And let's go up here, and we're going to use a different texture because this looks kind of like the wall for like a retaining wall, but for this one we'll use some kind of wall. So we'll turn off that, we open it up, and I'm going to choose this stone wall right here. This should differentiate it from the foundation itself. Okay, so we'll change the stroke size. Make sure there's enough space, because remember, we're using the grid as a guide. So this is pretty decent size. It's not huge, but it's not tiny either. We'll bring it up, scale it up so a little bit bigger. Now, as you can see, I can see beneath it, but if I use fill, then I won't be able to texture it. So what I'll do is I'll use a clipping mask. if you're not familiar with what a clipping mask is, it's basically just a movable FG layer. So I'll put it down. Well, actually, leave it up, and then I'll put the wall up a layer so it's above it. So now you can see that I can't see what's beneath it. Okay, so that works out great. And let's make sure it's set up just the way that it is kind of a little bit in the guide. I want to do some asymmetry, so instead of having it perfectly centered, I'm actually going to offset it and put it even to where some of it is not on the foundation itself. This gives it an offset and makes it look more interesting because too much symmetry looks weird. Add a little bit of asymmetry to your compositions, to your pieces. It makes it look a lot nicer. So there's that step. The next step is I want to also make the little entrance hall that we have right here that's kind of a square shape. So let's do that. We'll use the shape tool. We'll use a square. And I'm actually going to use the grid this time. So this way I don't actually make it uneven on both sides. So I'll do snap to grid. I'll make sure that this piece is snapped to the grid. So that way I won't make a mistake. And we'll go ahead and use the shape right here. Let's go out right about, let's say about this far looks good. So there's that shape. And then of course, you know, some of the roofing is a little bit different, but we can change this up. And one thing I also recommend is that you want to differentiate between interiors and exteriors because an interior is generally darker than the exterior during the day. It's good to always make the textures a little bit darker. So I'll just use either the same texture or a different texture. It's up to you. If you want the interior to be made of wood, you could do that. Since it's the base floor, we'll make it of stone, just like the foundation, stone, and then the upper floors will be made of wood because it makes sense, right? A stone second floor is heavy and it puts more stress on the foundation, causing collapse. So instead, we'll use wooden upper floors and a stone bottom floor. Okay, let's go ahead and change the settings of that texture. Just go to Advanced Settings, scroll down. We're going to change the brightness. And I'm also going to turn on the softness because this is where it actually can bleed off on the edge a little bit. So I'll turn off my softness. Let's just see how dark it is first. Oopsie, that's on the wrong layer there. Undo. Ooh, that's pretty dark. Let's make it a little bit brighter. There we go. Perfect. And then we'll just fill that in. There we go. Great. Now, one thing you notice is, how do I get into the building? There is not really an entrance yet, is there? Well, that's fine. We'll do that. We'll select that shape, and then we'll click portals, and then we'll click right there, and then there's our portal. We're going to turn snap to grid off so it doesn't snap. What I want to do is make a little bit of space. Because it's a citadel, because it's an elven citadel, I want to have kind of a decent entrance, so I'll make the door nice and wide. So now players have a way to get in. And what's also part of access is stairs. So we'll add some stairs. And we don't have to use the line tool for this. We'll just use a stamp. That's fine. We'll scroll in here. I'm just going to warp this so that it fits to my needs. So we'll warp it, bring it down across, and it looks a little too bright. Look at how it's kind of clashing a little bit with the inside texture. So we'll drop the brightness down. There we go. Great. So now you have the staircase that goes into the building. And in fact, I think I'm going to add in another staircase too right here because I think it just adds to an extra, just kind of makes it look extra nice, a little extra interesting, having another staircase that kind of goes right up. So a little stair that goes into the interior, right? So great. So the interior, the bottom floor seems to be done, and then we'll group this and then use this as a guide for the next floors, okay? And what I'm thinking of doing is that maybe the next floor will have this little square part in the front, and then the floor above that won't have that. It'll just be the circle that leads up to the next floors, okay? So that way it'll look more interesting because every floor looking exactly the same looks kind of odd. So it's really nice to make the floors a little bit different sizes depending on what kind of tower, a citadel that you're kind of making. Okay, so we've got that. Let's make the next part, which is because it's a tall structure, it needs stronger supports. So what we could do is put in some stone pillars that will act as columns that will hold up the structure. So we'll do that. And I kind of noticed that this clipping mask isn't big enough. There we go. It's kind of bleeding a little bit off onto the brown. There we go. Perfect. Awesome. There we go. The other thing I recommend is shadows, because this doesn't really look like it pops out a lot. So what I'll do is I'll go to this gear right here when I have the room selected or the shape, click shadow, and I'll increase the intensity and the shadow size. And then you can see that it kind of pops out a lot more once you've added that hard shadow, that nice shadow on there. Sometimes it is good to use the shape shadow or stroke shadows, which I do. Here I'm not going to use it because I don't want the shadow to be on the inside of the foundation. I want it to be on the outside, so I'll have to end up painting that. Okay, this guide is working out great. Let's go ahead and add in the last bits of the staircase that kind of lead out. This is kind of a nice grand entranceway, a foyer, shall we say. And what I'll do is I'll just take the steps like this, the ones I just used, copy and paste, and we'll make that little entrance thing, and we'll bring the brightness up so that it matches with it. It does seem a little dark, so I dropped the contrast down and it should match a little bit more in. I'll copy paste, add in another one right here. There we go. Great. And then if you want to hide that kind of thick line right there, there's another piece you can just use to go right on top of it that doesn't have lines at the edge, and then it will look like it's a piece there. And then from there, let's go ahead and change the transform. We don't need that. We'll go ahead and put on this piece right here. And then we'll add one more to that piece right here. One more. Oh, hold on a second there. Let's fix that. All right. Okay. Now this seems a little too far away. So what I'll do is I'll move this up a little bit and maybe push it to right here. Because one problem that I was kind of seeing there was that I didn't really care for how not much space there was. So let's go with 1 instead. I think that should be enough. We could always stretch this to be a little bit wider so that it will fit. But I just want to make sure that it there's kind of a grand entrance to it. So kind of doing it this way will kind of help with that. I don't see any staircases with 3, just the 4, so we're just kind of stuck with that. Okay, go ahead and turn this off. Okay. That seems a little bright, so we'll bring the brightness up a little bit on this one too, so it kind of matches more. There we go. And then one thing you can do is we can paint this to be a little bit different if you want to. One thing that I try to do to show height is to use textures. So what I'll do is I'll just bring the brightness down just a hair so it's noticeably different. Right here, see, you can just barely tell. It's just slightly darker. And then what this will do is it will make that staircase right there look like it's popped up a little bit because I've used a darker texture beneath it, causing it to pop out more. So some tricks to elevation and to verticality is to using contrast. So pretty easy stuff. There we go. So now that staircase is there. Let's turn the grid off because I kind of feel it's kind of looking kind of oppressive. And this kind of gives us a chance to look at it and see how it looks. So let's also add some pillars as well. So I'll type in pillar. And then you have some pillar options here that you can choose from. I kind of like this shape. That's kind of interesting. So I'm going to put one right here and one right here. I think that should be good. And again, if you want them to show like there's height, we're going to add an object shadow to it. So we'll center the shadows by changing the offsets, make the blur stick out, and then hit the intensity. And you can see those pillars look like they kind of pop out a little bit more now because of that. Let's put some more right here as well. There we go. So we got some pillars there. That's great. Cool. So we're kind of getting that put together. I'm going to go ahead and save it at 88 changes. I usually save it around 100 or so. But you know, it's always safe to save your changes. It never hurts to do so, right? Okay. So that's kind of been put together. We can now start maybe decorating or actually adding in some more pillars, I think, into the interior. We'll turn the grid back on so I can see where my squares are at. And we do want to show that there's some foundation in here as well. So we'll put maybe a pillar here, a pillar here, and a pillar here and here. Okay, that looks good. And the reason why I'm throwing in the pillars again is for the foundation. And I put them right where a square is, right in the center of a square, so that way it's a full square movement where players can't move around. But these are going to act as foundations. Now you don't have to put them in the center. You could also put your foundations on the side like this. That way you're not making a mess in the interior. I actually like this a little bit better, so I think I'll do this. So I'll just copy and paste this, rotate it, put it right here. We'll make sure that's lined up properly. And we're going to copy paste here. Oops, my mistake. There we go. I think this looks a little better. We're basically, again, kind of creating these foundations. And the first room is not going to be like a bedroom. It's going to be like a vestibule. Maybe there's a pool down there, or maybe there's a little shrine, or maybe there's a kitchen down there. You know, you can decide on what you want it to be. If it's a citadel, then we should probably add in a library, a small little library. We might not get all to that today. We might do a part 2 on this Elven Citadel, because if there's a lot of floors, it's going to take more time. It's just unavoidable. You want something to look more interesting, you just got to put time into it. There's really no way of getting around that, the time-consuming bit when it comes to making a map. But you can always get faster at it by having a process, which is what you're here for today, right? Having a process. Okay, so I think that interior, or that looks just about done. The last thing that I would recommend is definitely throwing in some windows. Because it's the first floor, we probably don't need to really add windows. And windows kind of weaken the foundation of a structure anyway. So if the bottom floor of this citadel has windows, it's going to weaken the structure. So putting the windows on the upper floors will be a better idea. But since we've kind of gotten there, let's just select the whole thing, create group, and call it first floor or ground floor, whichever one you want to call it. So we create. And so now I have this that can be moved around. And then I'm going to, of course, lock that. Okay, great. So you're kind of getting the general idea on how I operate here. Let's go ahead and add some details to the outside a little bit. So I put some trees in here, and I think that looks really nice. It kind of encloses, it creates an enclosure around the foundation by adding in some trees, and that looks really cool. So we'll do that. So we'll go into the catalog and we'll just type in tree, and you see a bunch of trees here. And what I'll do is I'll make sure that the tree is not on top, but underneath, like this, underneath the clipping mask. So it kind of looks like it's not bleeding over. So I'll use a couple trees here. When I look at what I put together here, we'll put another one here. Remember, you don't have to follow the guide perfectly. It's just fine if you just want to go with just sorta. There we go. Some trees there, a tree there. And let's put some over here as well. Especially towards the entrance where the foyer is. I think putting a little bit of trees there helps. And then there's going to be a kind of a gazebo right there. So let's not put that there. Let's put another one, just kind of a rando right here. Remember, I'm trying to create an enclosure with this. So then I'll select every single one of them. Select all from set. We'll change it to custom object shadow. Again, center it. Bring the blur out. And then kind of boost the intensity a little bit. Now, some cool tricks that you can do to show that a tree section is higher than another is just to make it a little bit brighter. So if you want to show that this tree is obviously higher besides the overlapping, is to change its brightness. So I'll go to this one, bring the brightness up just a little bit. Same thing with this one. I want this one to be a little bit hot, a little bit, see like it's higher, so bring the brightness up. You see, remember the trick to depth, contrast. That's the big trick. Okay, so we put some kind of trees around it. I think that looks good. Let's put some vines down as well. I think it's kind of iconic to add in some vines. Now, it might be on the line tool. Let's look it up. Look up vine. It doesn't look like it's there. I think someone's going to have to request that, I think. Okay. We'll type in the vine here. And I'll bring it down a layer so that it's below the trees, right? Because the vines aren't obviously as tall as the trees. So we'll put them beneath the trees, and you can make them a little bit darker to kind of show that. And then we'll just kind of line some of it with this. Not all of it, but just some of it. We'll line it up with it. So I'll put one here. Ooh, this is an interesting long one. That's kind of cool. I might end up putting that like right here to make it look like, it looks kind of like a weeping willow or something, but we'll get to that later. Let's just put together a little bit of vines on the edge here. And this will kind of continue that green color that kind of goes around it. So we've decorated that, so that's great. What else do we have up here? We also have a fountain. So let's throw in a fountain. Just type in fountain. Perfect, we'll put the fountain right, let's see here, 5 feet. Ooh, that's a pretty decent sized fountain. So we'll put it right here. I'm going to line it up with the grid so that it's kind of clear for movement. Turn layer off, go back to custom. Okay, so we'll go ahead and, of course, center the shadow. There you go. Bring the blur out. Intensity. Oopsie, didn't get 0 there. Great, perfect. Super easy. We'll make it a little bit smaller. And then I'm going to throw in some benches as well, if there are any benches. There they are, perfect. And maybe some decorative ones would be good. That's a big one. Let's just go with wood for now. Just these small wood ones, that's fine. And I'll just put them, they don't have to be perfectly lined up, but I'll go ahead and just place them like this. And that way, there's a nice little seating area for this. I'm also going to, of course, just go with the same custom shadow that I always use, kind of centering it, unless you're going to have directional shadows, and that's hard to do, and for sure we'll be adding a stream for that. Let's bring the brightness down. Oopsie, I didn't select that other one as well. My mistake. Custom object shadow, great. Ooh, seeing some awesome activity in the chat there. Great, love to see it. Definitely get the tool. It's an amazingly intuitive tool. Now I kind of like the darker wood more than the lighter wood. And I think it also, just the darker brown, I think goes better with the green there. So I kind of like that look. So we'll go ahead and have that seating area there. So that's perfect. We'll check out my guide and see what else I have here. It looks like we have got a statue as well. So what I'll do is I'm going to go use the same circular stair that I used right here. And oopsie, ooh, you know what? Maybe it going down is more interesting than it going up. That's kind of cool. Let's do that. So I'll go ahead and just piece 2 of them together, then copy, paste, rotate. Like this. Perfect. And then I'll select them both. And then I'll put this circle right here. And then you could maybe make this kind of be where like a statue is. The stairs go down to the statue. I think that's kind of cool. And of course, I'll probably want to use a darker version of the texture to make it look like it's a little bit further down. Remember the trick? There you go. It's a little, that might be a little too dark. Let's go change it up a little bit. Let's go with that. Nah, still not dark enough. Let's try that again. There we go. Yeah, I think that looks good. As long as it's dark enough. And we'll make the stairs just a little bit darker as well. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Let's go ahead and turn the grid off. Sometimes it can be a little oppressive. let's take a step back and look at it. Great, perfect. That looks good. Let's go look for a statue. And I'm thinking that this will be a 2 or 3 parter because there's still a lot to do, and we're 35 minutes in. So, okay, let's throw the statue in. There we go. A little bit hard on the lines there, so I'll just kind of desaturate it or drip the contrast down a little bit. There we go. Those hard lines are dark lines are a little too hard for me. There we go. Custom object shadow. We can still go for another 30 minutes or so. We'll go for an hour. Trying to get as much done as possible. And I can always leave the other floors to you for homework, or if you want to just fill out the rest of it, just follow the techniques and the kind of the process that I'm using. Let's go ahead and add a shadow. There we go. To kind of make it pop out a little bit. Bring the intensity down. There we go. So let's take a step back and look at it. Yeah, there we go. That looks nice. I think I might want to put a little bit more vine down too. Maybe a little more right here. There we go. That looks nice. Okay. Yeah, we're looking good. Nice. Let's go check out the guide real quick. There is a gazebo with a roof right here. But the thing is that you might not want to show because the gazebo will hide the walk space. So what I generally end up doing here is just, if you bring the brightness down and then turn off the shadow and then change the opacity, you can make it look like there's a roof that's supposed to be right there. The only thing is that it would need some kind of pillars for it to look like, for it being held up. So just make sure that you throw in some pillars here in the corner here that looks like it's kind of holding it up. And I want to make sure too that the shadow is overlapping that as well. So we have to click this and go up. There we go. Okay, so we got some pillars that are holding up this kind of circular gazebo over the entranceway where that landing is. A landing is just a flat space in between sets of stairs, or it could be the top of a stair. So you could do that. So all those things work great. Just make sure that we line these up properly. There we go. So these are the pillars that are holding up the gazebo roof as you walk in. Okay, that looks nice. Okay, and then I also want to add some guardrail. So a cool trick is that I can just open up the foundation, click that same staircase, and then just go to the line tool and then change it to something else. So there's all kinds of things that you can kind of use for this. So I'll just use this railing right here, and then we'll put it right there. I might want to scale it up just a little bit so it kind of goes on the whole thing. And I might change the brightness of it as well, though I think it's kind of fine right here, like as is. Yeah, there we go. So you got some nice railing that kind of goes over it. All right. Now we do have a Rivers guide or Rivers video on our channel, so definitely go check that out. And also join our Discord. A lot of people there are really good with Rivers, so ask for help. Okay, let's take a step back and look at it. We're at 100 changes. We've got a lot done on this first floor, so why don't we now move towards adding in the exterior parts. So I'm going to delete this guide. I don't really need it anymore. As you can see, I've kind of made everything for it, so it looks kind of fine to me. So what I'll do here now is start adding in the textures. So whenever I'm making like a forest area or something, I try to use a texture that has a lot of artifacts in it. So you notice this right here has a mix of brown and green to it. So it has a really nice look to it. And we'll use a different technique than I have been using. We'll use the edgy brush for this. Now, when you're using the edgy brush, you always want to make sure to drop the opacity down because it's using like these fractal like shapes to paint. And if you have them on too much, too high of an opacity, it looks kind of weird. So what I'll do is I'll just start single click adding in, and I'm going to make it a little bit darker, I think, too. So we'll go to color brightness. There we go, a little bit darker. There we go, perfect. And I'm just going to click here and there. Don't cover the entire grass or the entire, don't cover the entire brown area. Just cover parts of it And start with big strokes first with a big brush size, and then go in with smaller brush sizes. And I'm just using a mouse. I am not using a pen right now. Okay. So this is the first layer, or the second layer. We did the grass, we did the dirt, and then we added grass. And then the next step was to add in some more artifacts and more stuff. One thing I can totally recommend is definitely using alpha textures, which we're going to do. And just like I framed the foundation, I also want to frame the map itself by taking some maybe some more trees. And we'll use some taller trees, like these kind of pine trees or these conifers right here. And I'll put them in the corner. Because I want to leave this open. This will be like a road that leads to it. So we'll leave that open. And then we'll put a bunch of trees here, and even one that kind of overlaps and goes on top of this tree right here. All right, here we go. Perfect. All right. Awesome. So we're just kind of framing it. And then from there, we'll want to keep adding more stuff. So what I'll do from here is you could use fallen leaves. That works great because you want to show that there's what's called duff, right? Or you want to show that something's been happening. So using fallen leaves is fine. Just make sure that you scale. Whenever you are working on a map, you always want to make sure that you scale the textures to the similar scale of the stamps that you've scaled up or down. Because it looks really weird when you have massive stamps but a tiny scale texture, or massive texture scale but tiny stamp scale. So always just kind of keep in mind when you're doing that. So I'll put this kind of fallen leaves right here, just where the trees are at, because that's where you would kind of expect it to be. So wherever there's trees, I'll put in this alpha kind of fallen trees right here. Great. And we might have to apply this more again later in the future, especially after putting together the road that I want to put in there. But I also want to switch over to the FG layer because there's still some there as well. So put that on like this. There we go. Just like I said, right where the trees are at, that's where you're going to put these leaves. Perfect. There we go. All right. Great. Okay, so there's a lot of changes. When you're texturing, let me tell you, you're going to have a lot of changes. So that's just the way texturing is. And it's okay to go over 100 changes. You know, when you're doing texture blending, unfortunately, it just takes up a lot of changes. It's just the way it is. I'll usually save immediately after doing some major texturing like I just did. The other thing I want to do is, of course, select all the trees and make sure that the shadow is correct. Just go with the basics. Let's go with the blur a little bit. There we go. And then trees that are taller, again, I'll just make them a little bit brighter. Remember that secret. Just bring the brightness up a little bit. There we go. Perfect. Cool. Nice little trick there, right? Make some of them lighter, make some of them darker. That way all the trees don't look the same and it has this perception of depth, right? And that's so nice. I really like that. Okay, let's go ahead and add some last bit of details. We're going to throw in maybe some more vine stuff. So we'll throw in vine, and then we'll put them on the ground next to the trees, beneath the trees, to kind of make it look like they're kind of growing off the tree and then kind of branching off from the trees. We'll add a little extra fun here. Let's use, oh, that looks good. We'll go with that one. Ooh, let's go with this one. There we go. Looks good. It just adds a little bit of extra detail. All right, so it looks good. Got it set to random, so it might act a little funny. Over here will be good. Right here will be good. Let's see, over here, yeah. Add a little bit more here. Oopsie, we'll switch that around. There we go, great. Cool, all right, so some vines in there, great. It also helps to transition because the trees just look like a big blob of green. There's not much transition between the tree and the ground. The vines, the alpha leaves, all those things help about transition. That's really the big secret about blending stamps and textures together is transition. You don't just want a black, hard-lined tree up against just this plain old texture. Throwing in those vines helps that transition from stamp to texture. Just remember that trick, stamp to texture. It's all about transition, okay? Now you also notice that there's not any shadows, right? So it kind of looks like this is kind of flat. So we'll take the color black, we'll set it to the background layer, and then we'll bring the opacity down and we'll use a circle brush with full softness, and around 30 is where I usually put it. And then what I'll do is I'll just start putting the first bit of shadow going around the edge here. That's the first part, and then you'll add in more as you go. So we'll just put in the first bit, then I'll bring the size down, nice and small, and then I'll do a second layer to create that what's called ambient occlusion. You notice that it's starting to pop out right by creating that ambient occlusion, a drop shadow. So very, very helpful to making it pop out. Just now it doesn't look so flat anymore, does it? Really looks like it's popping out now. So nice little trick there is to use these thick shadows, not too thick, but thick enough shadows to where it looks like it's kind of popping up. So perfect. That turned out exactly the way I hoped it would. It's got some nice shadowing in there. Again, we're just doing as if it was noon. That's where the shadows are at. Again, in another stream, we will totally cover directional shadows. Okay, we're looking good. I like the direction it's going in. I might even end up using the top layer to use a little bit of shadow to put it right here because it kind of looks kind of flat. So I'll use the top layer to make it look like the shadow of the staircase is going down because it seems that it's lacking right there. So we'll use a very smaller, much smaller opacity. That way the gradation is not quite as intense. And now it looks like the stairs are kind of descending down because I used that black texture on the top layer to make it look like it's descending down. Nice little trick, right? Cool. Let's keep adding some stuff in here. Let's take a step back actually and take a look. Overall, I'd say I'm fairly pleased with this. I probably will add in some more vines and stuff to the outside, but since we're short on time, let's start doing an interior and try to get an interior done before we have to go. And then that way you guys can continue on. We'll resize it, add the rooms, and then I'll give the link in the chat or in the video description on YouTube so that you can clone, edit, and then finish this tower. Or if that's not something you want to do, we can just finish it in a part 2. I'm fine with that too. I enjoy multiple parts of streams, so that's fine. Okay, let's go ahead and do the interior part. So with the interior, if you're struggling on what to do with an interior, you just need to think about the function of the room, right? The function. What is happening in this room? Is it a sleeping area? It should have beds, tables, maybe a fireplace, right? Is it a living space? You know, like where you sit by a fireplace and read a book? Is it a kitchen space? Whatever it might be. Sometimes it's just confusing to know what to populate an interior with. It's really the function that's really going to inform you on that. And then the secret to making it more interesting than just function is to add a fantasy element to it. So think about function and fantasy, the 2 F's, fantasy and function. Those two things together kind of help to make the map more interesting because the function part makes it believable and the fantasy part makes it fantastic. And that's the whole point, right? Fantasy is supposed to be fantastical. So add a fantasy element to it. So in the interior, on the bottom floor, I'm kind of thinking that it's just like a vestibule. Maybe there's like a little pool area where people like, maybe there's a custom of like washing your feet before you go into the upper floors. So we could throw in like a little pool or something. I could actually take this same texture that I used, stamps that I used right here. I'm going to create group, create, go up, put this in the interior. And this is going to be like a washing station, like where people wash their feet before they enter into the upper floors. And I'm going to remove one of the pillars too, because we need to create a staircase that goes up. So we'll have the staircase right here that leads up. We'll leave that open right there. What I'll also do is I probably will have to adjust the brightness a little bit so it matches with the interior. And then this is the real fun part right here, is making it look like there's water covering some of the steps. So you're walking into the water to wash your feet. So this is really cool. We're going to turn off the merge shape. We're going to turn off stroke. We're going to select fill. We're going to go to texture and we're going to go select water. and you're going to pick a water that you like the best. Because it's inside, I'll make the water a little bit darker, unless there's like a light source right on top of it. And then what I'll do is I'll set it to preview first, and then I'll go ahead and put this on top like this, and then make sure that I line it up to where it's on top of 2 of the stairs and the other 2 stairs don't have it. Click add. Once you've added, then you want to bring it up above that. And I'm also going to change the fill size because I'm not seeing a lot of the artifacts. You see, remember I talked about size problem? There's your scale problem. It just looked like it was a blue texture or blue color. But once I scaled it down, the artifacts started to pop out more. Great, right? Then you want to change the blend mode because I want that shape to interact with the stairs beneath it, because right now it's just covering it up. So when I go through the blend modes like this, it starts to show the texture underneath it. So there you have some nice water. So this is again, like a washing station. We're going to say that in this Elven culture, that again, it's a sign of respect to wash your feet when you enter in. It could be a communal thing where everyone comes together, they wash their feet. It could be a sign of repentance. It could be a sign of washing away bad intentions before entering the house. Just adds in some culture to it. And then the culture plays a huge role in the function of rooms. So when you think about you're making a room and what its functions are, think about the culture, the people that you've invented, that you've created for this space. Okay, so a nice washing station there. We could even throw in like maybe a statue in the center with the water kind of coming down because it seems kind of open. So we could like throw in a statue, or you could even put a fountain in the center like this to make it kind of look like the fountain goes in. You'd have to change some of the hue a little bit to kind of make the water fit a little bit better. So you could just put that right there, and then it kind of looks like there's a fountain there. All right. That's a great takeaway, right, Frost John? Elven feet are nasty. So this little fountain kind of is a part of the pool. It's kind of a fixture to make it look nice. And then also I might put maybe some benches in there as well. That should also kind of help. Let's go ahead and do that. And let's go copy, paste, bring this up because I want to keep the shadow, same shadow. So I'll copy, paste. And I'm not going to do the same formation that I did up here. So what I might do instead is just have 3 be like this right here. So when you walk in, you can see people. You can add in 1 more if you want. It just depends how much walking space you have. When it comes to populating a map, you always want to think about having enough walking space for your players to move around. So just kind of think about that when you're putting things together, okay? You don't want to populate it so much to where players have no way to move around. So super important. All right, filthy benches for filthy elves and their filthy feet. Filth, filth, filth. All right, let's go ahead and do a quick save here. All right. Cool. Yeah, I love the little washing station. I think that just kind of adds a nice cultural part to it. Let's go ahead and add the staircase that goes up. One thing I can do is we'll let it pop up, and we're going to use the line tool. Remember that I made this staircase for the foundation? Same technique, right? Just grab the stair, only I'm going to use the line, use the pen, click, hold, and then curve the staircase to fit. Press enter. There's that staircase. I'm going to push it down a layer. Oop, I see what's happening here. I need to go into I should have made the staircase when I made the ground floor, but it's okay. That happens. And that doesn't seem curved enough. Let's make it even more curved. Ooh, no, that's too much. Let's try that. No, still too much curve. Let's try that. I think. Nope, still not liking it. Oh, you know what? Actually, now that I think about it, I think there is actually a curved staircase that should work just fine here. This one right here. Perfect. Yeah, I think that should overall work. Just make sure that you push it down a layer and then put it up against the wall right here. Okay. And you just want to make sure that there's access to get to it. So there's room right here. They can walk up and then get to it. Perfect. That's great. Okay. Looks fine. And then also I generally put a little overhead board above it. So I'll take some wood. Ooh, that's my job. It's once you have a process, it becomes easier. That's really the trick to making it look easy. As I have a process. I always have a process to help me to make it. When I don't have the process, that's when I start jumping from task to task, and it doesn't look the way that I want it to look like, and that's what happens. You kind of lose interest when you start kind of not using a process. You just start willy-nilly putting things here and there, and then, oh, I put this there, and oh, this kind of looks okay. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that, with doing it that way. I'm not going to shame anyone, but I will tell you that it is definitely more time consuming. The process is the secret to kind of making it work better. So I'm going to change the object shadow on this so it goes like this. So it kind of looks like this piece of wood right here is overhanging above the staircase. There we go. So the staircase goes up like that. I think that looks good. I might actually even bring this over to here so that this way it kind of, there's a curve with the staircase right here, and then there's a curve with the benches right here, and it opens up the space for people to walk up and down the stair. I'm not fully like enjoying this staircase entirely because it's kind of feels like it's a little off. So I could try to use the line tool again, or I could just use, yeah, I'll try the line tool again because I really do want it to fit properly into the curve there. So we'll try it one more time here. Press enter. Yeah, no, I don't think so. So we'll just stick with that staircase for right now. This will just do fine. I just don't like the way that I would prefer the staircase to be straight like this, but it doesn't seem like it works well. So you'll just have to finagle it. It's just the way it is. So I'll go ahead and push this down a layer. There we go. It's fine. You can't always get what you want, you know? Oops. And let's kind of just create this. Now, if you ever notice that you can't change layers, you notice that it's not working very well, group it, and then you can just change the layer inside of the group. And then that way it fits. It's a great way of kind of moving around this loophole of, hey, for some reason, I'm stuck in between two layers. Okay, let's take a step back and look at it. I like the way that this looks so far. Kind of wish the staircase was a little straighter. I guess there is a way to somewhat kind of fix that. We could just use this staircase right here and then just kind of flat like this. I'm going to cheat just a little bit. There we go. There we go. Much better. I was kind of just getting a little dissatisfied with that, so this kind of helps to... There we go. Much better. Now it's kind of straight, and then when you go up the stairs, that works fine. Great. Much, much better. Great. Okay. And then we'll make the railing, too. Don't forget about the railing. We can actually use the curve for that, so I'll push curve hard. No, too much. No, still too much. Sometimes it is hard to get that curve that you're looking for. Let's go with this one. Enter. Okay, this will do. This looks like this will work. Let me just put it down. Yeah, that'll work. And you notice that it's kind of, so I'll copy, paste it, and then open up the group. Put that in the group. Oh, oopsie, I didn't put that inside of there. My mistake. Copy, paste that. Ah, the mistakes that are being made. Ah, so lovely. There we go. Much better. Oh, there we go. Okay, and I think I might bring the stroke size down a little bit more. Well, it was hiding that stair, so that's kind of good. And I'll just bring the brightness down a little bit because it's super bright. There we go. Okay. Nice. Kind of fits with the circular theme. It kind of goes up into the next room. Great. Where are we at for time? Okay. Well, let's do the resize. Let's add on the other rooms, and then we'll call it good. So let's do the resize. So I'll save it first. Now the resize option is perfect because I've made that first ground floor and everything, but I want to show the other floors. So the way that I go about doing that is that I'll just resize it and then put the other rooms on the other side of the map. So it'll save, and then we'll go to the grid tool where the resize button is. It just kind of takes a few moments for it to save. Bear with us here. Spinny logo. A little slow to save here. It's because I probably added so many. There's so much more on the map. Just takes a little bit more time. Just going a little on the slow side. Okay, let's cancel the save for now. Let's just do the resize. It will prompt you to save. I definitely recommend turning on snap to grid so that way you can kind of stay within the grid of the map. And we'll scale it out. Let's see here. We want to have, it's a Citadel. We'll probably have about 3 additional floors, I think, would be good. So I want to make enough room to have 1, 2, 3 in this space. So we'll open that up. We'll go to confirm. It's going to say save and proceed. I'm going to turn off this toggle right here. I don't want to remove the objects that go outside of the bounding area because I want to keep them there. So I'll save and proceed. It will save, and then it will, what it will do is it will clone. It will save the original map, and then it will make a clone with the resize. Huh. Uh-oh. Some kind of mistake there. Let's go to confirm here. Do it again. Some kind of error there of some kind. Just give it a moment. A little slow sometimes. I think it's working now. Once it saves, and then it'll give you a resized version. Great. And I'll show you what I do from here. Oh yeah, we'll be calling it good pretty soon here. Let's go ahead and take, oopsie, not clear, my mistake. We want to take background layer, choose color black, because remember it's an interior. And then we'll just go ahead and go like this, enter. And then here's this space, and then we'll grab the ground floor, copy, paste. We'll go in, we'll delete this stuff. We don't need it. Delete that staircase. We'll delete these pillars here. And we're just going to go to the bare bones. And what I will do is I'll keep the staircase. And I'll move it over to this side because the staircase on the bottom floor was down there as well. So we'll move this over to here. There we go. Okay. Next staircase. We'll put it over there. Okay. And then what you do is you switch because it went from this. Now you're going from upstairs to downstairs. You switch the overhanging board to the bottom part of the staircase because it goes down into it. Okay. Okay. There we go. And then I will also add in a clipping mask for that part right there. So let's quickly just add in that. And then we'll copy paste these in. There we go. Great. Perfect. Okay. And I'm also going to delete the that portal. So we'll do that. Just select the dot, press delete, and there we go. Perfect. Okay. Now that we've done that, I can copy and paste them. Copy, paste. There's another one right here. Let's move this to the side a little bit so it's not too much in the way. And then we'll put another one right here. Okay, these can go up a little bit. Create some space for them. There we go. Great. Perfect. Just want to make sure that there's space. There we go. So now you have your 3 floors. Okay, that works out great. Awesome. All right. Okay, well, I think we will reserve this for a part 2 because this was a lot of fun, but I hope you kind of get the general idea on the process, building from the ground up, the foundation, the ground floor, the next floor is up. Use the shape tool so that you can copy and paste the shapes. I'll end up deleting some of this shape too right here because I just want this top floor to be a pure circle. So we'll end up doing that in the next stream. But you get the general idea on how to kind of put these kind of things together, and it works out pretty good. So now if people want, they can kind of clone and edit this and finish it for themselves as well. So I will make this available. I'll put that in the video description on YouTube. So that'll be very helpful. And then, of course, I'll just finish it and then in another stream probably next month. So thanks, everyone. It's been great. I hope you found this useful. I'm looking forward to seeing you all again next Wednesday. Okay? Please stay safe and healthy, and merry map making. Bye, everyone.